We are in a series where we are talking about what to do with your singleness, like preparing for marriage and all the things. And, I know some of you guys are like, are you dating somebody? No. At the time of this recording, I am not dating someone, but it's just something that's been on my heart that I want to talk about. So this is a 4-part series the entire month of April. The episodes are awesome. They're here on the podcast and here on YouTube. So if you want to watch them in all the places or listen to them in all the places, make sure you cross around. Welcome back to another episode of the You, Me, and Jesus podcast. Today, we're in a series. Again, we're talking about preparing for marriage, but specifically today's topic is what to do with your singleness. So I have like a whole list of things that I want to talk about here today, but I want to go ahead and get into it because one of my things with this podcast is I try to keep it short and sweet because a lot of times you may listen to this on your way to church. And so it's like you got like 15 minutes from your house to church or whatever. That's kind of like what I do when I'm listening to multiple podcasts. And so I want you to be able to like do that. I don't want you to watch me while you're driving if you're seeing this on YouTube, but you could just be at home doing that. All right, but let's get into it. So when we think about, going from single to married, a lot of times me included, we're trying to speed up that season. We're trying to speed up that process, like getting on all the dating apps, me included, and trying to speed up that process, but not actually taking stock in what is happening right now. What is it that I could be doing right now in this season? What is it that God is trying to teach me? What is happening in this season? Me and my best friend, we've been talking about this a lot because I've been going through a lot of the different health challenges and different things have been going on. And I've just really been talking to her about like, oh, you know what? Like it would be great to heal from what I'm dealing with before I get married because it's just certain things or whatever, right? So it's kind of like, this is kind of what I'm doing in my single season. But specifically today, I wanted to talk to you about like 5 of the things that I feel like you could be doing while you are single. And a lot of these things is what I'm in the process, like in process. I can't say that I'm like going hard after all of them right now, but I am trying. So one of the things that you want to do in your single season is you want to be going after your God-given purpose. That's a given, right? Now, I feel like a lot of times we don't actually know what that is. We are doing whatever it is that we are doing. We go to whatever church we go to. We may be doing whatever, I don't really singing in a choir, or you're serving at children's church or women's ministry or men's ministry or whatever, which are all amazing. But I also think it's really important to like really sit with God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit and let them help identify what are you uniquely called to do. Now, it's been a journey for me to like know and understand what that is for me. But when I think about on a regular basis, what brings me joy, what brings other people joy, and in what ways do I really, really, really impact people the most? Speaking. Right now, I cannot say I always love to speak. I can't say I've always loved the sound of my voice, or I can't say that I always feel like I have something to say. But when I say things, I oftentimes will have people come to me and say, you're just so anointed and so gifted to speak. I'm always like, really? Or I'm on stage and I've done a talk that's around business or whatever. And then people come to me and say these things. And then when I think about sometimes when I'm teaching or preaching from a Christian like ministry standpoint, I see the impact that I'm able to have on people, especially when I'm like surrendered to God and not in my flesh or whatever, how it becomes a blessing to people. I've identified that. And so I have been on this journey of trying to be like, okay, this is my God-given gifting. I've got to cultivate this. I've got to develop this. I've got to get better at this. And I've got to get mentoring around this so I can continue doing what it is that God has called me to do. You know what I mean? While I'm in my single season or just in general, because even when he does come along, I still have the calling on my life without him, right? There'll be things that God wants us to do together, but before I ever met him or ever knew him, I always had a calling on my life. And so it's important for me to be going after that in my God-given purpose. The second thing you could be doing in your single season is actually dating to see what you're looking for. Now, I'm not talking about you going on dates with a million guys and you're always swiping right, swiping left, or sleeping with people. I'm not saying any of that stuff. But what I am saying is this. A lot of times we as women, if you're a woman watching this, listening to this, we're thinking about Prince Charming. He's gonna, rescue me. He's gonna all of my problems are going to be solved when he comes along. That ain't true because he's a human and she is too, if you're a man, right? These are humans. These are people with awesomeness and then not so awesomeness. These are people that come with baggages. These are people that come with their own expectations, their own complexities, their own relationship with the Lord, their own path, right? They all come with stuff and we don't really know what it is that we're looking for or when it shows up. I remember this one time I was at a party and it was a bunch of Christian people at this party And like, I was meeting people, hugging people saying, hey, what's up? What's up? What's up? And then I met this guy and I hugged him and I was just like, wow. What was that? Right. So I have this thing where I can like sense things and I'm like learning how to cultivate that. And when I hugged him, I was just like, wow, what is that? And so I went back to him and said, who are you again? Told me his name. And I was just like, dude, you got quite the Father's heart on you. I could feel the love of God coming off of this man. I mean, it was so strong. I was in awe of him. Right. And just what he carried, you know what I mean? And I remember going back home that night and just writing in my journal, I want something like that. Doesn't mean it's him, right? But it was like just that feeling of safety. I had never, ever, ever felt that on a man before in my life. And I felt it on that man. I was like, check, please. Right? I know some of y'all like, what happened with that guy? Listen, he had pluses and had minuses. And when I asked God about him, God was just like, no, he's not the one. But that thing that you felt on him is something you need to add to your list. Then there was a man that I met and everybody loves him. He's so giving and da, 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 da. And I was like, I want that. These things about men that I just would not realize that exists in a man until I met a man like that. So like I recently met a man, I'm not dating him. And he is a man that says, I don't want to kiss till I get to the altar because I don't want to have sex till I get married. I've already been there, done that. I'm trying to keep myself and get to the altar. I was like, yes, please. Because like, that's what I've been telling God. Because I'm like, I want to do it. I want to kiss. I want all that. But if this dude kisses me, it's over. Like it's finito. And so when I heard him say that, I was like, they do exist. Handsome, black, all that. You don't have to be black, but this guy was handsome, black, successful. I was like, they do exist. Wrote that down, right? So you can actually be dating and connecting with men and people to see what it is you actually are looking for. The third thing you could be doing while you're single is starting a new hobby. Like, I know it sounds crazy, but like, just think about it. You work all day and then you're going to work all day and then come home and sit in front of a TV. That's what a lot of us do. That's what I'm doing right now. But what we actually could be doing is starting a new hobby, finding something fun to do with ourselves or with other people. So last year I started swimming lessons again at the pool at my apartment complex. And while it was scary and it can be scary, it has become freeing because I'm like, now when I look at the water, I'm not as scared as I was a year ago. Because I went on vacation to Mexico for like 3 weeks and I didn't get in the water because I was so afraid. It's crazy, but I'm just telling you, I went on vacation, didn't get in the water, crazy. But I'm like, I don't want to be that way. I live at the beach, basically, here in San Diego. And I'm like, I want to go and do these things. And when I go on vacation, I want to get in the water. Everybody said they're going to go snorkeling. I want to go snorkeling. I want to go swim with the fishes. I want to do all these things that people do. And so in order to do that, I had to learn how to swim. And so we could start a new hobby. So I'm actually getting ready to move from where I live in northern San Diego to like the inner city. And this apartment complex, it actually has a bowling alley. Now, listen, you're like, this is bougie. Listen, this apartment complex costs a lot less than what I live right now. So I'm kind of downgrading in a beautiful way and I'm excited about it. And they got a bowling alley. And so I'm like, ooh, one of the things I could do is really learn how to bowl well, not just bowling in general, but learn how to bowl well. I think they also have a foosball table. I think they have a pool table. These are some of the things that I can start doing just to have a fun hobby. Doesn't mean I'm going to do them every day or every week, but just a new hobby. The fourth thing you can do with this singleness is you can work on some goals. Now, I'm not saying that these goals have to be lose weight. You can if you want to. One of my goals was to learn how to do my makeup. And then my second goal was to learn how to style my clothing. And so I had been on this journey. Like I took 2 classes by a makeup artist teaching me the basics of getting started with my makeup. And then I started like playing around with clothing, like buying lots of pieces of clothing. And then people I know started buying me little things. And I've been like slowly learning how to put all these different pieces together. And while it can be scary at times, it can also be really fun. So like last week I spoke in LA at a conference and I was like trying to decide what I was going to wear on stage. And I was like, here is this shirt that I had bought a while ago. And I was like, I want to wear this shirt because like right now I have to have surgery on my, my stomach. I have like some, what you call them things, fibroids on my uterus. So it makes my stomach sit out really, really, really far, like 8 months pregnant far. And so I was like, okay, I want to hide that a little bit. So I was like, I'm going to wear that shirt. And I said, and what bottoms am I going to wear? So I ended up bringing a bunch of bottoms and I was just like, okay, I think I'm going to wear this shirt with this skirt with these shoes or whatever. And I chose the outfit. And when I got on stage, I had all these people just complimenting on my outfit. When I posted on social media, everybody was complimenting on my outfit. But the only reason why I could do that outfit was because I decided that one of my goals was going to be to learn how to style my own clothing. So that way I didn't have to hire a fashion stylist or whatever, but that I could learn how to do that myself. And for me, it is becoming so fun when I put things together for myself. And then I go out and I meet people and they're just like, oh, I love your outfit. And I'm like, yes, but it tells me that, I did good. And so now the last thing that I wrote down here that you can do while you are single is you can work on yourself. Now, if you've been listening to this podcast or watching us on YouTube for a while, I'm always talking about working on yourself because nobody's perfect. We all come into life with whatever, you know what I mean? I've been going through so much intensive therapy and asking myself, why do I think this? Why do I feel this? The more that I have been in therapy, all this old trauma has started coming up from my childhood because when I went to therapy after divorce, my therapist was like, oh, you don't remember your childhood at all. Were you molested? No. Were you this? No. She was just like, okay, there was something about your childhood that was traumatizing that caused you to black out your childhood. And so I kept trying to remember my childhood. And as I continued just going through intensive therapy, deliverance, and EMDR therapy, I've started to piece back pieces of my childhood. And again, I wasn't molested or anything like that, but my childhood was very chaotic and very traumatizing. And so as I am becoming, more aware of that, I am also becoming more aware of why I think the way that I think, why I get triggered the way that I get triggered. Why do I get so anxious? Why do I I'm becoming way more aware. And I'm I don't really like what I'm now becoming aware of, but I'm really glad that I'm aware of it because the more I am aware of it, the more I can learn, the more that I can heal and I can grow and then get and mature in the ways that I haven't been able to until all of this stuff really came about. And I know that sounds really scary. A lot of us, we don't really want to dig back into those deep, dark, nasty places. But if we don't do it, then we really, we find ourselves stuck in these old ways and we can't figure out why we're there. And so while you're single, you could be working on these things. That's like me, I'm I don't like all the stuff that I'm dealing with. I don't like all the stuff that I have to grow from and heal from right now, but I am glad that I'm single because these are certain things that I don't have to bring to the relationship. It's just, there's just stuff, you know what I mean? With what's happening on my uterus, I'm what I realized, my doctor was like, well, if you were engaging in sexual activity, this would be actually really painful for you and you probably wouldn't do it. And so I said, oh, so because I get to have this surgery before I get married, I'm not going to have to deprive my spouse of intimacy in that type of way because, the surgery will be done or whatever. So if I was with somebody now and I was married now, we wouldn't be able to engage in sexual activity because of what's going on in my body right now. It would be extremely painful for me to be able to do that. But I get to have surgery, heal, and then meet someone whenever God says. So it's but this is me choosing to work on myself. Okay. So I know that's a big full disclosure, but the whole point of me sharing this is because the same thing I'm teaching and I'm preaching is what I'm doing in my own life, right? I'm not telling you anything that I'm not doing. I'm not saying, oh, I've done it. No, I'm on a journey too. Okay. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you think that people that are single and that you want them to enjoy their singleness, share the podcast with them or share this YouTube episode with them. If you want to listen to the podcast, it's the You, Me, and Jesus podcast on all podcast players. Otherwise, we're here on YouTube at You, Me, and Jesus as well. Thanks for watching and listening.